Welcome everyone, hope you all had a great day today and welcome to today's video. This is basically just going to be a commentary over one of my Eclipse 8 runs I've done in my spare time. Because, so since some people in my lovely chat have asked, should I do this at this time or this at this time, like move faster through stage, or should I go after I get enough items, that kind of stuff. Like a lot of context heavy questions. I've kind of thought about it for a little bit and I think it's probably best to just go through a Eclipse 8 run with some commentary and just talk about stuff that comes to mind, general ideas, strats, etc. And yeah, just kind of just go over my thoughts and hopefully you gain some information from this and enjoy the video. So let's just get right to it and talk about some of the the skills I've chosen for the Eclipse run and I usually prefer for Huntress. So yeah, Strafe is, in my opinion, way better early on just because you're able to attack way faster because the other primary, you have to like pull back the bowstring and then the attack goes off. So it's a little bit faster. And sure, in with symbiotic Scorpion, getting multiple hits is pretty solid because you apply a debuff multiple times. So in that situation, the other ability is pretty good, especially if you get crit, attack speed, and all that stuff. But Strafe is so much better because you're able to get quick damage off, really fast, constantly attack. It's way faster, which is pretty good since it allows you to get through a lot of early stages pretty easily because you're just able to take stuff down a lot faster. And, the faster you go through the run, the less dangerous stuff spawns, the less health they have, the less damage they have, and the less health and damage Mithrix has. So you're able to get through him a lot faster without, as much of a risk of you causing enough mistakes where he takes you down. So, speed is important, definitely. So getting a strong early game to rush through the rest of the stages is pretty good, and that's why I prefer it over the primary attack. Laser Glaive, I can't really choose anything else, so pretty good AoE overall, great stuff. Phase Blink, I prefer it over the Singular, longer, more, the other side grade to it. Yeah, I forgot the name of it, but this is a lot better than the other ability, which I do not know the name of right now because I forgot. It's a lot better because he has 3 charges of it, and this allows you to basically dodge a lot more attacks in succession, since, sure, the other ability allows you to dodge and move a lot further and be more, maneuverable in that situation, but the problem is, if you dodge an attack with that, and an attack immediately comes right after that, you don't have the charge ready unless you have the red item, the heart rate booster, to, get a few extra charges, which is, unlikely because the red item is pretty rare, and in most cases, and, one item is even rarer, so having the ability to get 3 charges from the very start, which allows you to dodge a lot of attacks, since enemies tend to throw everything Queen Kitchen Sink at you, allows you to dodge multiple times in a row, in case you need to, and as well as just storing up some charges in case you need to dodge some attacks, and just be a lot safer, as well as just being a lot more flexible when you're trying to avoid fall damage, because, as we all know and love, Eclipse 8 doubles and makes fall damage lethal, so being able to cancel your momentum and stop fall damage can be a really big deal and save a lot of runs, because I have saved multiple runs on Eclipse using that, since I get knocked off a wedge, and if I was playing, say, Railgunner, for example, where you don't have any real movement at all unless you're, on the ground in the Railgunner has a little mine that pushes you forward based off how, you are located, relative to mine and all that stuff. It's not very good in midair, obviously, so in that situation, Railgunner would be dead unless I had, Hopu Feather, for example, but Huntress is able to avoid fall damage and, not die, so pretty good. And it's also just, again, a lot more flexible dealing with, constant barrage damage and all that stuff. So yeah, I prefer it over the other, ability. Ballista. I prefer it over Arrow Rain just because it allows you to burst stuff down. Arrow Rain's nice, it's a set and forget weapon, a set and forget ability, where you just simply throw it down, it does damage over time, and it's pretty solid, but in terms of bursting stuff down, Ballista's pretty good. It has way more, raw damage per hit, so it can proc, ways, rockets and all that other stuff a lot better, and make damage scale way higher, as well as just being a lot more effective long range, and just effectively bursting stuff down, so I just prefer it over Arrow Rain, just because you want to burst stuff down again. Faster you go through stages, faster you go through bosses, faster you go through Mithrix, the easier it's going to be, so gain a very strong burst ability is always great. So yeah, so these are my overall like general thoughts about like the abilities for Huntress for my average Eclipse 8 run. So let's get to it and just go into the run itself. So responding to Cyclic Forest, that's fine. So like, not the worst, like probably, you know, pretty decent stage overall. And my main goal right now is simply just to find money. Like, I need money in like get as many items as possible early on as possible. Like going through it relatively fast, figuring out where everything is, rushing through it. That's why with Ballista, like Arrow Rain won't be able to really take down the Wisp, but with, you know, Ballista I can, and that's pretty unlucky immediately when I spawn, or when I activate the Ultra, you know, Shrine of Blood to Flying Pest spawn, which is not great, because Flying Pests hit like trucks, and like Wisp, you know, they don't really produce much sound or animations, or like, they don't really tell their attack very well, so, which doesn't help either, because they hit like trucks, especially if they're elite, so, yeah. Pretty dangerous enemies overall, and yeah, just pretty unlucky there, but thankfully just Huntress is very strong against them, just because they're able to move around a lot fast, like relatively fast enough where they can't really reliably hit you. And Stone Golem's also pretty great to go against Huntress, because they kind of move in like this rigid kind of way, where they can't turn on a dime, they can't really, you know, they can't turn on a dime, they can't really attack you like effectively if you're moving like faster than them. So yeah. And here's why I don't like pests, because like they spawn and they immediately start shooting you, like, and you can't really tell when they're about to shoot you because they don't make any tells. Like the Wisp has that like charging animation and that sound before they fire. So yeah, that's why I don't like stages with those things, because they can be horrifying sometimes. But yeah, like also waiting around for that green item wasn't always the best, because green items tend to be either very good or just awful. Like that isn't bad. Like Hunter's Harpoon's pretty good, but I could have gotten Chrono Bauble, for example, and that wouldn't have been that great either. So yeah, but it's worth it. It's just, you know, it could easily backfire on you if you just don't get lucky. Roll pennies, pretty solid, but with the permanent damage, unless you take like very small hits, it's not really that great. So yeah, like you saw the Wisp, it had a charge up animation, and it acts more like a shotgun, so unless you get really, like, unless it's elite and it hits you with all 3 shots, it won't do that much damage, relatively. Unlike a pest, which is basically, like, just gonna chunk off health pretty easily. As you saw, like, you just, it spawned behind me, I heard it, but I was unsure of exactly where it was, so I just kept on moving forward, since if I stayed still, it was gonna hit me and probably kill me, so it's better to keep on moving and just hopefully try and dodge and engage where it is, you know, based off where the projectile came from. Ballista just shredded that elite Wisp there, pretty solid. And Void Cradle. Void items are overall pretty solid. Besides maybe like Clover is not awful, it's a meme essentially, but yeah. Because essentially if you don't get the item in the first place, the Void item is technically just a straight up benefit, so there you go. So technically if I don't get Tritid Dagger, you'll take a straight up a benefit, so yeah. That's the way I see it, personally. Armor's pretty good, helps you avoid taking permanent, you know, damage, because it's based off how much damage you take and all that stuff. So, getting a few armor plates could be pretty strong. And I'm just kind of just taking down stuff and just preparing for the boss fight, because I feel comfortable now taking down the boss fight with healing, a little bit of damage, and a little bit of speed, so yeah. I now feel confident relatively. And Wandering Vagrant. Out of the 3 enemy... oh, there's the funny thing, yep. Usually, for some reason, the teleporter spawns amending elites to heal the boss when they spawn. I don't know why. But, like, it's some... I've seen it way too many times to be a coincidence, so... It's actually programmed in the game somehow, so, yeah, fun stuff. Either that or I'm exceedingly unlucky, so... Thankfully it's only 1 Wisp instead of like 10 beetles. I saw like, yeah, I remember a time like on stream like there was like 7 mending beetles that spawned alongside Stone Titan, and I did not live through that, so yeah, fun stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I'm just like Stone Titan could be pretty bad, Beetle Queen could be bad with the 2 beetle guards. Vagrant is pretty bad in its own right, but you know, to stay back and it can't really do much because most of the attacks require, you know, it requires time for projectiles to come over. You know, they're not instantly like they're not instant hits essentially. Besides the shockwave, which as long as you take him down fast enough, it doesn't really matter because he's dead before you can even activate it. Predatory instinct, pretty good overall, and the idea right now is to constantly move around. You don't want to sit still, because if you do sit still, a pest or a Lemurian could just come out of nowhere. It could be a weak one, and it could one-shot you. So you just gotta constantly move around and just take down everything as best as you can, just so like nothing could just. You don't want a giant horde of stuff following you around, because if that happens, then it just takes one bad enemy to spawn like a a wheat or a mending wheat or a blazing wheat or something else that really screw you over. Since if you focus on that, you're not going to focus on the crowd and all that stuff. So it's just always best to take down stuff as fast as possible, as well as just simply moving around to avoid damage. Thankfully, there's a lot of cover here, like the hill I was saying on like a minute ago. Like there you go, the hill right there is pretty good for blocking line of sight, so enemies can't really hit you that often if you're on the other side of the hill. And since it's a lot of spawning a lot of beetles, we're doing pretty well right now. If it spawned a lot of pests, for example, this would be pretty bad. But I do have black hole, for example, so black hole is very good. Like there's clumpy never-seen getters, so if you have gasoline, for example, you just set it off, and all enemies in the black hole just go away immediately. Like those melt. So now that I feel like now the teleport is done, I'm running around just trying to get as much stuff as possible real fast. Speaking of gasoline. But yeah, like I guess the best thing to say about this is like if you feel like you're able to get away with it, which with Huntress' blink I feel like I can, like get around the map as fast as possible. Like if you're able to get around the map as fast as possible with like a speed I'm also, it's pretty good. But the thing is, like you have to go through the idea of, am I going to benefit more from the items I get than the net loss of from the time I'm taking to get all the items, for example. Like I think the Harvest Scythe, the gasoline, and the extra roll of pennies could be a big deal. So I think I technically made a net benefit over, since I got the better items, that I got enough good items to provide more benefit than the loss of the extra time I'm taking. So yeah, and 3D printers aren't really that great right now. So, and honestly, I just don't like personally like scrapping stuff this early on if I feel like I'm not able to get good enough stuff out of it, because like I'm like very rarely I ever see a printer I actually want, and usually times I do see it, there's usually a scrapper there. So it's like it's a whole gamble of like, can I get this this item may be good, but I probably won't get it, all that stuff in a 3D printer form and all that stuff. So yeah, I usually just don't want to gamble it. So winter items. Now I would say the Scythe and Head Stompers. Like Head Stompers are good for fall damage, but I don't think it's really worth giving up 5 green items, especially since I've turned into white items and green items. So yeah, not worth it. I personally prefer I don't prefer to go into Swamp, so I chose that level overall because Swamp is a real pain sometimes because it's very cluttered and not that open. And actually, funny thing is, it's the first time I ever noticed that you can actually sit in the soup bowl and actually is a physical object. So, first time I learned that. So, and winter items, I'm just gonna talk about this real fast. Just pausing the video real fast. So, the equipment that the elixir equipment that buffs you, I think that's not really the best thing you always want, because there's a way to, I forgot exactly how many equipment cells and gestures of the drowned you need to get it permanently on and not suffer the loss of the debuff when it's over. So pretty solid in that situation, but the problem is though is like that's a whole thing to set up, and it's not really that easily done with an Eclipse run, because you usually want to get it done as fast as possible. Since if you wait too long, Eclipse 8 is very difficult, and all it takes is just like one bad circumstance to just take you down easily. So you want to get it done as fast as possible. So get the combo going to get that equipment going and all that stuff, the buffs going without the negative effects. It's not really that worth it, personally. So that's my personal view on that. And the 2 heretic items, I think they're fine, but I prefer Like, of course, you know, there can be some cases where you may want engineer to have, you know, replace the harpoon ability with, you know, the heretic ability, for example, in some cases. But most of the time, like, that isn't really necessary in my personal opinion. It's still good. Like, in some cases, it's pretty solid, but personally, I don't want to, you know, have to rely on that in that situation, because if my strategy relies on the winner equipment or the winner item, for example, then it's going to be pretty hard to pull off sometimes. Because if I'm going hard into a strategy that requires like a winner item, that's a whole separate thing of RNG to get. And yeah, that's kind of why I just prefer not to go with any one strategy most of the time, because you know you're basing off your strategy and build off of a RNG chance essentially. Like, well, I get lucky enough to get this one item to make everything work. So, well, I think the heretic items and the you know, the elixir equipment for the buff is pretty solid, but I don't think it's really good enough for a Eclipse run personally. As for the item on the far right, the one that shrinks the teleporter area of, you know, the teleporter area in exchange for making it charge faster, I don't think it's really that great. Well, it's good for teleporter because you're able to go through the stages faster. The problem is, I don't know if I'm able to skip the moon stage or not, and if I can't skip the moon stage, then there's going to be a problem where the pillars are going to shrink in, you know, area as well. So like I can only stand really close to them to actually charge them up, which is pretty bad because the moon stage, as you all know, has some pretty nasty enemies. The little roly-poly moon constructs. They explode upon death because of a little area of fire. Like when they die, they spawn a little damaging area on the ground, which if it covers the, you know, pillar area, can be pretty nasty. The walker constructs can be basically like shotguns essentially and just cause a lot of damage. And the flying lunar constructs are horrifying damage if they catch you out in the open. So trying to like limiting your movement in that situation is horrible in my personal opinion, especially since like the pillars tend to be like not just simply just you just stand in them. Like one of the pillar types, you just stand in them. It's like any normal teleporter. Another pillar is the blood pillar, where it constantly does damage, which isn't great. So you prefer to have a long or a decently large area. So you know you're able to move around, you're able to get out if you can. You know, not take damage while you're in it, because you know taking damage and then taking their hit from a weird construct can be pretty bad. And then there's the ephemeral tower, like pillars I don't know the exact name of, that, you know, shrink in size as you charge them up, and if you get out of that, you know, area effect of the, you know, pillar, they'll revert their progress, so that's not great. So reducing their size is pretty bad, especially if you get shotgunned out from using a walker weird construct. And you know, the pillar of mass or whatever, the one that pushes you outward unless you jump. If you jump to, like, since the gravity on the moon is a lot lower than, you know, a normal stage, if you jump up, you're most likely going to go out of the pillar's area effect if you have the lunar item that reduces the pillar's area effect. So it's like, technically, you get a benefit so long as you're in it, but I've tried it out with two of them, and I haven't really seen much of a benefit of that. Like, that's one of the few pillars that, besides the regular pillar, that does nothing. Like those, the pushback pillar, like knockback pillar, and regular pillar, those are two that are relatively fine with that winner item, but the other two are not that great really, so, or pretty terrible in the ephemeral pillar's case. I don't know the exact name of that pillar, but I keep on calling it ephemeral because it's basically like a ghost, essentially see-through and all that stuff, so yeah. So honestly, none of these winner items, in my personal opinion, and as this roughly what I saw about during a run, like none of these are really worth it, because I'm basically kind of like basing it off of an item that could really screw me over later on. So either by replacing my abilities with something else that may not be that great, or replacing my equipment with an item that could really screw me over if I get the debuff, or getting an item that basically could make the moon stage very hard because the pillars will just, you know, the area effect you're able to charge them up will just retract so much. That will just basically just be a real pain sometimes. So yeah, none of these winner items, in my personal opinion, are really worth it. A little bit of a rant, but apologies for that. Just trying to explain it the best way possible. But yeah, like none of these items are really that great. Like Head Stomper is an interesting one, but honestly, since I have too many good green items, like if I got like 3 Chrono Baubles and like something else, that would be pretty good. But since I have Scythe, Instinct, and Harpoon, 3 items that really work well together, because you know, Harvester Scythe provides crit, Instinct goes off of crit for attack speed and all that stuff. You know, it's not really worth it. Amphion Sanctuary, yeah, this is a very good stage in my opinion, because this is very open. Unlike, you know, Swamp, which is very claustrophobic in a lot of ways, because there's a lot of like terrain bits and like you can't see the entire map easily. So usually whenever I enter that stage, it's quite hard to find teleporter sometimes, because usually it's in a crevice somewhere. I just can't easily see it because there's a lot of walled off areas in that stage. So you know, the Swamp is just pretty bad, but this is a pretty good stage since it's pretty wide open. Given the equipment drone, Black Hole is pretty solid just because, you know, as you see, it's able to deal with a lot of smaller stuff a lot easier, and basically gives me another body to meet shield with, so hopefully enemies will focus on that. And yeah. Yeah, apothecaries are great fun. I haven't really fought apothecaries that much, so you can see me get hit like a couple times here. Because I'm pretty terrible finding apothecaries, so I haven't fought much. Like, they're a new enemy and they're pretty rare, relatively. So, yeah. Just haven't got enough experience to like relatively dodge their attacks that well, so yeah. But yeah, equipment drone's just doing wonders right now. Busting Fungus is not great because you have to sit still, which is not good. Crowbar is good, but I prefer to have crit because I want my items already go off that. Neither of those printers are great. Like, the armor plating's pretty good, but honestly, none of my items are that. Like, besides, like, even like the roll pennies, like that's extra money early on. That could be really big of a deal. Like, that could be a massive deal early on, so yeah, I'm fine keeping that. But yeah, doing the teleporter since I feel confident in it, and Quaidun Strider, interesting position as you may see in a moment. Like, he's able to attack me using the mortar attack, but when he tries to drop off those urns, they're not coming up to that level. Like, they're not coming up to the level I am at until, there we go. Yep, there we go. And the funny thing is I got completely blindsided by that, so like, I didn't know why that happened, but there's apparently just enough ledge in the very center, relatively, like there's some areas where the urns just can't go up, and there's sometimes some areas where the urns, you know, can go up, so yeah, I had a fun time figuring that out, so, on the fly. And there's a wheat, I think I'm mending flying pests, so that's a big deal, so I really don't like that. Because that could easily one-shot me, possibly, because they hit like trucks. Like, for some reason, Womerians and flying pests have like massive amounts of damage when they're elite, so yeah. But yeah, that Dune Strider there really shook me a bit, because I didn't really realize that his urns can go up a level. Like, for a second it's like, oh, they're not going up, so he, you know, he can't. It's the inconsistency that's really got me, because like, one moment those urns that he set on the ground, they couldn't go up, and I moved slightly to the side, and then all they suddenly just all came up and tried to get me, so yeah. And almost killed me as well, so it's like, yeah, it's more about this, the shock of it that really got me, so. Which is what Eclipse is really about. It's like, it's just the surprises that usually get you a lot of times. But yeah, equipment drone's just doing wonders right now, just like funneling everything into one place so Gasoline can take him down. Pretty good. But yeah, Sticky Bomb grenade, like Sticky Bomb printer isn't a great either, personally. Power is pretty good, just extra health in case something goes wrong. But yeah, just now going to just go across the stage, quickly grab everything if possible, and yeah. And what equipment will we get? We got another black hole. Yeah, that's real fun. Because I really want to get a movement-based equipment, like Molten Egg, I want Molten Egg, Vase, or Chrysalis, because those allow me to skip the moon stage and go straight to Mithrix. Which saves time and also health, because, you know, I don't take damage during the moon stage, and I don't take preemptive permanent health loss before Mithrix, so yeah, pretty good. Molotov's pretty good, but I prefer that black hole just so I'm able to grab, like, cluster everything together in case something goes wrong, like I get surrounded by imps, for example, so that's why I picked black hole over Molotov, but yeah, like, Volcanic Eggs is the only exception really, because I need equipment cell, because I need 2 charges to get it halfway up, then I'll rest for a moment, recharge the R2 charges, and head the rest of the way up to Mithrix's arena. But Vase and Chrysalis and Molten Egg are the equipment I'm really after, because if I get those, I basically skip the moon stage, and that is a big deal, because I save time, and again, it's a lot safer, because you don't have to deal with the moon stage, which is pretty dangerous. So, yeah, those are the equipment I'm really after. But yeah, so now we have a Void Seed, the first Void Seed of the run. Now this is in a pretty bad place, because as you see right back there, yeah, it's blocking off the area over there, so I'm very cautious of going up there, as you see in a moment, just because I'm not sure exactly what's up there. There could be a Void Clay Templar, for example, and that could easily kill me. So I'm just being very cautious right now, as you will start to slowly see. Oh yeah, here's my favorite part. So, just have a Void Imp, and I'm just going to try and chuck him off the edge with a black hole. Then he starts teleporting over, and it's like, okay, sure, I guess you'll skip a black hole then, sure. What I'm guessing is happening is essentially, like, the Imp is trying to find solid ground for teleportation. So he kind of abuses the laws of physics, since the closest teleport, like, area I guess he can find, technically, is, you know, the area where the closest wedge, which was, you know, a little bit far away, relatively, so it looked a little bit weird, but I guess that's how they... I'm guessing, roughly, that's how imps find the area to teleport. Simply, the closest teleport they can make to you, while also having a solid bit of ground to stand on, so, yeah. That was really bad to look at, but yeah. It looked really weird. But yeah, Black Hole doing wonders. But yeah, like, I'm going down this path a little bit, just to hopefully try and find stuff. And wait for anything that's up there in the Void Seed to come down, because last thing I want to do is, for example, run up to a Void Seed using the Geyser and land right in front of a Void Templar, for example, which is pretty much a death sentence unless I'm able to stun him. So yeah, I'm just being very cautious. And if I'm correct, this will be a Polywood, right? Yes, Polywood. Polywood's great in my personal opinion, because there's a 20% chance to attack 3 times per stack. You know, each additional stack gives you extra 3 hits, but 20% chance to do X number of hits with 80% total damage, which, as you may see as time goes on with this run, goes really well with Ballista. So yeah, I think Polywood is just kind of like way better than like Ukulele, for example, or you know, not for example, it's the item that corrupts, but it's essentially a side grade 2 side grade 2 Ukulele, but yeah. It's great damage overall, because you can just hit a target once, and all of a sudden they just take a bunch of damage for free. Now, anti-armor round printers, not bad. Definitely very good with Polywood, because basically it just causes a bunch of damage to happen, since, you know, Polywood does get affected by that as well, so yeah, pretty good. And the additional Needle Tick is pretty good. Really love that. And extra Void, like, we're pretty lucky with, Void items, and you got additional Polywood, so technically I think 2 Polywoods is when it starts getting really good. Because yeah, like as you saw it there, like that burst of damage is from Polywood alone, so pretty good overall. There you go, you saw a little bit from that Grove Tender right there. Grove Tender isn't that bad, like as long as you don't get shotgunned or get pulled off an edge, you're pretty solid. But of course the Wisps are always good fun, because I remember this run, oh yeah, there's Polywood going off pretty well, but yeah, it turns out the Wisp, the Grove Tender spawn, do not go away upon his death. They have their own separate timer to when they disappear, so I had a fun time where I killed a Grove Tender and his Wisp avenged him right before he disappeared, so yeah, good fun. Yeah, lost that run. It was funny in hindsight, but yeah, it wasn't fun during the time. But yeah, I'm getting bounced around a lot, so the blink is working out pretty well for me. Deathmark. Deathmark is one of the few green items I think is actually kind of bad. Because in a Eclipse run, like, you're very unlikely to get 4 debuffs reliably most of the time. So it's one of the few green items I don't really like, unless I get pretty lucky and get a Needle Tick, Shadow Spleen, one of the, Chrono Bauble, or the Tentacle, like the Tentacle Bauble, which is the Void version of a Chrono Bauble, and like a Frostband, for example. Like, debuffs are pretty rare to come by when you actually need them, so I think Death Mark is one of the worst off green items simply because you can't reliably get enough debuffs to make them work. But yeah, you saw like that's the power ballista with Polywood because you just saw that health of that Quake Templar melt. Since basically when you activate Polywood with a ballista, it's basically just doubling the ballista's like the total damage you get from a ballista, just because you know you get so many hits off it and it's based off the total damage. So it's like it's basing the ballista's damage, like the Polywood is getting based off the ballista's damage. So you know if you get really lucky, you can just shred stuff. And like if you get like 5 Polywoods, like you can like with Railgunner for example, you can just shred Mithrix, which is how I mainly run my Railgunner runs, which real fun, but also really annoying when you just get screwed over occasionally by good old RNG and bad gameplay. Like I'm not good at this game at all. Like when we can put it like in the most honest way possible. You should. I'm not trying to force anyone to play the game. Like play the game how you want, because I'm a terrible player. But yeah. So I think let me just quickly before we move on and the video goes on and I get too far back, but you know there's too much, you know. Let me talk about the multi-shop I picked. So there was a Mice and Steak and a Shield. I prefer to go for a random one because both of those are very good for defense, and Mice and Steak isn't that great. The Shield's pretty good, but I'm not sure how reliably I'm going to get Shrimp, so I didn't choose Shield because, you know, when you get Shrimp, it turns all Shield into Purple Shield, which allows you to do a lot of damage, or allows you to activate Shrimp and get a lot of extra damage in. Or I didn't, and also this Bison Steaks for like 25 max health is pretty solid, but it's not that great. And so I went for more random stuff, and I got, what did I get? Hold on. What did I get? Yeah, I got a Power Elixir. That could actually save me, so I feel like it's a worthwhile trade. But yeah, sorry for that. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly talk about stuff before I get too like far behind. And the rest of this disc is pretty solid. Like, as long as I get extra chaff, like beetles and stuff, like, I think in the next stage this goes really well. But Resistance Disc, pretty solid overall. This is an easy way to remove some stuff from the field. Great stuff overall. Great red item, so pretty happy with that. Yes, sorry, just trying to talk a little bit and, you know, not get too far behind the video, so, yeah. There we go. But yeah, so basically, you know, I clear out this top area. I'm going for the Void Trail right now, and you can see the background, there's a healing chest in the far background, and there's another Polyboot, so yeah, doing pretty well right now. So I think we're up to 9 hits for Polyboot, so pretty strong. But yeah, there's a healing chest back there. I looked at it for a second, so like, it's not worth going all the way back there, because how likely is it that the stuff on that far side of the map, like the healing chest, is going to be worth going all the way over there? Very unlikely, since I get a medkit, and I waste a minute of movement, you know, while you're moving around, so it's not really worth it, because this game will scale way too fast. So, yeah. Titanic Ruins, good old Abyssal Depths. So, this is a very decent area for getting good green items, because multi-shop's pretty good in this area, because, you know, they're mostly green items. Imp of Award. As you saw there, damage is just getting, he's just taking a lot of damage right now. Yeah, I've seen it. And more gups, yeah. Oh yeah, I think this is when I really just like pop off in terms of damage. Is it? But yeah, Imp Overboard, Gups very tanky, but also great money. So yeah, Imp Overboard got me a lot of money. Gups are pretty good sources of money later on. Not really right now, but later on they're excellent sources of money. So yeah, you know, a lot of money from all this stuff. The black hole is just occupying them with the, you know, the equipment drones occupying them with the black hole. As well as, you know, the black hole I spawned for my own equipment, so yeah. And again, Polywoods is doing wonders. And I already have like 2,700 like credits essentially, so yeah, pretty solid. So basically right now is just getting as much stuff as possible and just getting as much, you know, money as possible right now. Because the red item, you know, guaranteed red chest on his level, so getting money is good. Getting a gunner turret just so like some stuff goes after it and not all of it goes towards me or my drones, so yeah. As you see in the background, I think there's a medium gup going up against the turret. in the far background, so yeah. Starting to get glasses a little bit en masse now, which is pretty good. Which means that our Harvest Scythe and our Instinct goes off more. And we got our first major speed item of the game, Goat Hoof. Pretty good. And another crit. Yeah, like we're really going off crit right now. Getting a lot of crit. But yeah, first speed item of the game. Thankfully, like Huntress is the most forgiving, I guess, in my opinion, for movement items coming a little bit late, just because, you know, you have blink, you have decent movement, you know. You're probably one of the best movement in the game for each character. So, yeah. You're able to not worry too much about not having Goat Hoof or, you know, energy drink that early on. Because you have blink, so you get decent movement early on. Go for a, hopefully trying to walk out with another good equipment. I did not get a good equipment that I really need. Well, it's not bad, just not what I need right now. I need either Chrysalis, Vase, or Volcanic Egg to help skip the moon stage. Worrying about all the information in the area is pretty good, like where all the items are, but yeah. Got pretty lucky with that, so just maybe turned the Regenerate Scrap into a very good item, so got even more attack speed. And you got pretty lucky overall with, you know, good equipment. Gubo Jr., I think that's how you pronounce it. Great stuff for getting extra body on the field. All that good stuff. Like, very great equipment overall. Because your clone actually will attack and all that stuff. And just very great to add extra body to, you know, diffuse and, like, separate the, like, monster and you know, enemy aggro. So, because it's better to deal with stuff if not everything's focused on you. Instead, like, two stuff is focused on a drone, two stuff is focused on the Gummy Huntress, you know, all that stuff, so a lot easier to deal with stuff when it's separated attention, all that stuff. And I see a Residence Desk really popped off there. Yep, there's a... got Aegis. Pretty good. Not really that great personal... like, it's pretty solid, but, like, we don't really have that much healing besides Harvest Scythe, so... and, Reaching Seat, which isn't great because, you know, Eclipse like halves all healing, so we're getting a lot less healing than we technically should in a monsoon run, for example, so not that great, but still pretty solid. And we got a mission tank, which is great because we have gasoline, so we're actually able to make use of it, so pretty good. So now our AoE will be even better. But yeah, pretty solid overall. Yeah, that's the fun part of dealing with Ballista and tight corridors and stuff like that. You just kind of miss occasionally because there's a hermit crab in the back. And I just missed it horribly. So yeah. You always gotta be careful with that type of stuff in small corridors because you waste the cooldown. But when I go... am I about to do it now? But yeah, when I try and do the Ballista a little bit lower in a second, I will get a better angle on him. There you go. Yeah. Just get a little bit further back, get a better view and sideline on him, and just shred him. Equipment drone coming in clutch right there, doing wonders. Yeah, because two brass contraptions this close to me could be a very big problem if they like basically shotgun me and just they both swing their projectiles right into my face. He's pretty good, just because getting better choices of wood items can be very good. Like I could get additional plywood, I could get a shrimp, I could get a lot of decent items, so yeah. You know, like getting a shrimp and like more and more like different things to proc off of and like all that stuff is technically better in my opinion than getting like more Neolithic, for example, which we got a lot of, but you know. Just getting a lot of different things to proc off of and chain together tends to be pretty strong overall, so though definitely focusing heavily on like one thing is definitely still good, so it's more about what you're able to deal with and what you're able to get on during your runs, so yeah, definitely there's definitely both pros and cons to either going all in on one item or having a lot of different items proc into each other despite none of them really being that heavily stacked, so yeah. There we go. And now we're basically just trying to get all of the like extra stuff around the map. Because this area is relatively small, I can easily move around. Even like even though I prefer not to do it even with Goat Hoof. Like One gold hoof is pretty fun, like relatively good, but I don't think it's, you know, also attack speed is wonderful, so that's a great find right there. But I prefer not to go around maps unless, you know, entire maps if I don't have that much speed. But one gold hoof combined with, you know, Huntress's blink ability to move around fast, as well as just being overall just a very easy area to traverse thanks to all the geysers. I think this area is relatively easy to traverse and sweep essentially for items. So yeah, like I honestly think like in some areas if you're able to easily traverse it, you can get away with moving around, even like moving around and sweeping the area over in case you get, you know, some decent items, which you did. So yeah. Alright, so drone parts. Drone parts is very good. It turns every drone into a, as you heard the gunfire in the background, as well as turrets, so also NG turrets are affected by it. That's a fun fact I recently learned, so yeah. Turns out NG turrets are also affected by it as well, but it gives all your turrets, all drones, a missile attack, a chain gun, as well as faster attack speed. So basically this is great since they'll just focus in on targets, and turns out the drones are very good with this item. Who knew? They just shred stuff, like, as you'll see in the next stage, which is Sky Meadow. You'll just get, see them just shred everything. You probably won't see them much right now, but once I start getting more and more drones in the stage, the better. Oh, here's a great sight. Here's a great show off of Polywood right here. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, Grandpa is usually quite tanky, but thanks to Polyboot and just, yeah, as you see, the drones are after him now as well, so. I see the drones take him down as well, like, do they? Let's see. Yeah, I see the drones take him down, yeah. Look at that. The drones and the Gummy Hunters take him down. Yeah, drones are just wonderful. Like, they're great backup fire, they're great for dealing with, like, smaller stuff. And it's great for just dispersing aggro, so you don't have to deal with all of it at once. And we also got another Void Seed, so that's great as well, because we now have a good chance of getting a lot better items. Or, you know, we have a chance to get Shrimp, Safer Spaces, a lot of other good items, since technically we don't have Tougher Times, or we don't really have Missiles, so technically those are just straight up benefits. Like, those are bonuses. Like, they're not, you know, they're not side grades, they're just simply just additions to our power. Like, they're, you know, better, more items, so, yeah. Which is what I like about the Void stuff. Like, if you just don't get the item you need to, like, corrupt into a Void item, like, technically it's just a good item, because, like, none of the Void items are bad. Just, you have to realize that if you have the item already, you may have to realize that, okay, this is going to be a side grade, and some of it may be better, some of it may be worse, so, in certain circumstances, so, yeah. Not having to deal with, you know, trying to figure out, okay, what's the best in this circumstance, all that stuff, just, yeah. Pretty solid. And here we see the magic of the, yeah, trying to slow down our descent with, phase. If we had a regular phase, which had a much longer cooldown, or you know, the other blink ability Huntress has, which has a much longer cooldown, we would probably die there. Most likely. But yeah, as I was trying to say, you know, Void items are just great if you just don't get the other item to, you know, they corrupt into, just because it's essentially just a free item, essentially, so, yeah. Yeah, I may have not explained that the best, my apologies. But yeah, we're basically just going around taking out the Void items just because, over all the Void enemies, just because if we get a Magma Worm, for example, Magma Worms in my personal, you know, experience have gone straight for Void enemies a lot. And if it's across the map, they don't care, they'll just go straight forward, so hunting them down could be a big nuisance since during teleport event a lot of stuff spawns, so, you know. Don't want to chase down a boss during a teleport event, trust me. Especially if it's a Magma Worm and this goes really fast. It's a real nightmare sometimes. You spawn a boss and it just goes across goes across the map to go after like a you know, a Void Lumerian, for example. It's just real fun to chase after him. But we got a soda can, or energy drink. So, got even more speed, so we're doing pretty well off. We got extra crit as well, so we're up to 46% crit if I'm correct. Because you get one naturally, and then 5 from the scythe, so... And then each stack of glasses is 10%, so pretty solid crit overall. And now this is basically just a last sweep, just try and grab everything I can right now. You know, drones, regular items, and since we couldn't get a chrysalis or anything else like that from a equipment barrels or multi-shops from this stage, I'm basically, you know, preparing for a moon, you know, doing the moon pillars and all that stuff, like doing the moon area as intended. So I'm basically kind of, you know, preparing for that and getting as much stuff as possible. Since you're just able to burst everything down, then you don't have to deal with the fact that it can be pretty rough, you know. So it's pretty. The moon area isn't that bad if you're able to burst everything down fast enough, but you know, that isn't always the easiest thing in the world based off how your RNG goes and how the run goes in general. So yeah. But yeah, we got a very sizable amount of drones right now, and each of them all have weapons. So as you'll see in a moment during teleport event, they can really go off real hard. So in terms of raw damage. Now, infusion is pretty good, and so is ignition tank, but I think just movement is the most important thing right now, so wax coil is what I'm going for right now, or what I went for, since, you know, movement is very important, since, yeah. It's good to always be able to dodge stuff and move across the map fast, though, yeah. I think the sacrifices to health and, you know, HP is worth it. Yeah, you're starting to see, like, the drones starting to, like, file in right now. Like, the drones are actually starting to come in and start shooting stuff down. Yeah, we got... Yeah. Reaching seed is pretty good, so now I basically have a normal reaching seed, since instead of 0.5%, you know, 0.5 health every shot, I get 1 health every shot, so that's pretty good. But yeah, here's a good old ASMR with all the drones shooting everything, I guess, so yeah. In a minute, they'll start firing again. Yeah, watch it. They just immediately fire upon everything. It's just amazing. So it's like, yeah. Like the second stuff spawns, they immediately just like zone in on it and just shoot it immediately. So, and giving healing drones and equipment drones like the ability to defend themselves normally without, you know, a offensive equipment in terms of like, you know, a equipment drone. But, you know, just giving them all a way to defend themselves is pretty solid. Especially since this stuff shreds, like, stuff in the lunar, like the moon, like, lunar constructs and Mithrix get shredded by just like, a bunch of drones with just, you know, red items, so. Which you'll see shortly, but. Yeah, it turns out, like, a whole firing squad is very effective against, you know, lunar constructs and Mithrix, so. Yeah. Who knew a firing squad could be so effective in this game? Also, another perk is that they zone in on stuff behind you and stuff you can't see, since, you know, the most dangerous enemy is the one behind you don't see, so if they shoot everything behind you and everything around you, they are going to help stop anything from sneaking up behind you and getting you in the back. So since at the very least, you'll know someone's behind you, because you'll notice all the drones just shooting behind you at something, so, you know, it's great for dealing with stuff behind you and just all around you. Keeps you safe. Now, honestly, I don't want to give away any possible items for any 3D printers right now, just because most of my items are pretty good. Like, I don't want to risk getting rid of my goat hoof or risk getting rid of my energy drink, for example. Like, even though I have a massive amount of bad items, relatively, like, opal isn't that great. Speaking of opal, like, it's like 100 armor, so like 50% base damage resistance on the first hit, which. And if you know armor, also another poly boot, so it's going to get even better now, so that's great. But yeah, opal, for example, like, first stack of it gives like 100 armor, which is, I think, 50% damage resist, but, you know, like, the more extreme armor you get, either negative or positive, the less effective it is per stack, essentially, of armor. So, the more opals you get, the less effective they are, technically. So, like, even though I could technically get rid of all of them, for, you know, like, attack speed, for example, first off, I could risk getting rid of my movement speed items, like, I could get rid of my energy drink or goat hoof, which is bad, and I will be giving that stuff to Mithrix later on, so, yeah, I don't want to give Mithrix too much attack speed or too much damage, because that could be a big threat, because, you know, Mithrix can be a big threat based off, what you know, he steals from you, so, yeah. Gonna take a quick drink for a second. So, yeah. Pardon me if my voice sounds a little bit, you know, strange right now, like, a little bit stuffed up today. And I just finished dealing with, like, some fun stuff on stream where, for some reason, this game was taking up 80% of my GPU, so, yeah, fun stuff. So, if I seem a little bit strained today, I do apologize. Honestly do. But, yeah. As you saw there, the drones are really doing a lot of damage now, and I think this is a perfect example of polyboot. Yeah, look at that. That's the pure power of polyboot right there. Just, like, it's basically triples the amount of damage you get from Ballista, which is wonderful, so... Yeah, like, polyboot is just, like, the real MVP here. Yeah, here's one of the wheat stuff. Like, here's one of the unique wheats for this area, so... Because in the moon, like, the moon area has its own unique wheat called Perfected, and, yeah, they're pretty nasty. So taking them down fast is pretty solid. Especially if there's flying ones, because they're able to shred you real fast. Because when the perfected wheats in this area have a apply debuff, that basically makes you slower, have less armor and all that stuff. So with flying a wheat, that deals a lot of small hits very quickly, as well as just being high damage when it's a wheat and all that stuff, can easily kill you in like 2 seconds. Like I've seen cases where I just got burst down in like 2 seconds by those things. So yeah. Great to get rid of the wheats as fast as possible, as well as flying constructs in general, since they can be a real nuisance. So I'm just waiting for all the drones to come in closer to this area so they're able to cover me. And the funny thing is, you see that whip around the pillar? You're actually able to stand on top of that, so as you see those little, like, roly-poly constructs that roll around, the small little spear guys, when they die, they explode into, like, flames, and, you know, we will fire terrain behind, I guess you can say. Like, you'll see in a second. Yeah, the fire damage area over there. And if you stand on the whip right there, you're able to stand in the pillar. Like, you're able to stand in the pillar area. Use the pillar as cover still, in case a flying guy, like, tries to minigun you down. And you're just still able to avoid the fire. So, yeah. Pretty solid. And you're also able to do it also if you're just, you know, stand on top of it, for example, as you see right here, so. Honestly, this makes this whole thing a lot easier overall. You can't really do this for the pillars that push you away, but for every other pillar, you're able to do this. So if you're having problems with, like, the roly-poly guys, like, forcing you off, and, you know, with the ephemeral pillars, which we didn't get in this run, you know, like, they revert their progress if you get out of their range. This can be a great way to make sure you always stay in range, even though those guys, like, create little fire terrain areas and just screw you over because they're forcing you out of the pillar area, so, yeah. So, hopefully that's somewhat useful information to everyone. There we go. Yeah, as you see, like, that's the turrets and, like, the polyboot and, the turret and the drones are just doing amazing works right now, like, yeah, they're just doing amazing work right now. This guns them down. And the best part is, like, all the lunar constructs, which are honestly one of the most dangerous types of enemies in the game overall, because they're just very dangerous overall. Just high damage, high attack, and all that stuff. High damage, high attack. High damage, relatively high speed, especially when a wheat, and you know, they're just very dangerous overall. Just, you know, getting them to focus on drones and focus, you know, all their AoE attacks on them and, you know, shooting in the air and missing half their shots is very effective overall. So that's why drones are honestly amazing. Unironically, just because they make those guys just miss all their attacks. They don't go after you, so, and they don't shoot any of their AoE attacks into the pillar area, so you're not forced out of it. So you're doing ephemeral pillars. They don't retract progress. So yeah, pretty solid overall. And here is, I think, yeah, okay. So what we got was 2 regular pillars, 1 blood pillar, and 1 of these pillars. I think it's the pillar of design or mass. I forget the names constantly. I constantly call them either the blood pillar, the regular pillar, the ephemeral pillar, or the pushback pillar, or the knockback pillar. Pillar design, there you go. But yeah, you have to constantly jump, or otherwise you'll just get pushed back. Now the funny thing is, like, a lot of enemies, as you see in the back right there, they get stuck in this area, so honestly, if you have to do the pillars, and if you're able to skip a few of them, try and go for pillars in this area, because enemies tend to get stuck pretty easily. And this allows you to have a lot easier time because enemies will be stuck behind a wall, for example, and you just don't have to deal with them most of the time. They'll try and peek you occasionally, but enemies tend to have a pretty bad time with pathfinding here, so if you have to do pillars of design, like, this is probably one of the best places to do it. Just because the AI has a real hard time figuring out where to go, for some reason. Especially the walkers. The walkers have a really hard time figuring out, and there's the fun part about this area. Technically, those chains have little areas where you can fall through them, so if I did not have that ability to avoid fall damage, I'll be dead. That would run with, like, if I did not have the ability to stop that fall damage, I would have been dead. Dead. Like, run over with. 40 minutes wasted, you know, so yeah, same goes for Huntress having a built-in fall damage counter, so, you know. Now here's the Coliseum. The Coliseum, as I like to call it, first off, got a good void item, so I think it's Lystat Cell, Key, Key's useless, Lystat Cell is good for damage, but I prefer the Mushroom just because I need healing, so I went for that. But the Coliseum is pretty bad because basically, if anything spawns in this main circle area, around like the tower where Mithrix is, they'll all funnel towards you here. So it's like if you have to do any pillars here, and they're always blood pillars. All pillars in this area are blood pillars. All towers and or all pillars in the workshop areas are designed knockback pillars. All pillars in the like far off area we're not seen in this run, they're all ephemeral pillars, and all pillars in that cavern area are all the normal pillars. And I'm going to keep on calling them, like, I find it much easier to call them my names. I don't know. But yeah, like, have a rough time with that fire. Like, as you saw, like, I misjudged how far I was able to jump up, so I got a bunch of fire damage. Or, I took a bunch of damage from the AoE, those little spear guys left behind. But yeah, now we're going to start to go to Mithrix, so. But yeah, like, any area, like, any enemies spawning in that circle area right there, like, they'll all funnel towards you if you go to that Coliseum area. So it's best to take down any elites that spawn, because if they rush into the Coliseum while you're doing a pillar fight from across the map, it could be pretty bad. So it's best to clear out the area, then do the pillars, because, you know, that's one of the few areas where a lot of enemies are able to funnel in. Like, most of the time, only the flying constructs can get, like, okay, here. So there's my mouse. So basically, this is basically connected to everything at the bottom. So like for this area and just for this area right here, oh, you can't really see. Okay, so the areas I got for the mass, the knockback pillars, these two areas right here, those two areas only flying enemies can easily get to from anywhere else in the map, and so is that area there from the cavern area where the two pillars were that we charged, and so is the area down there that we never went to. But the Coliseum area is one of the few areas where all enemies that spawn, like all ground-based enemies that spawn in a circle area, and also all flying enemies can get to you there, so it's best to like clear out the map as best as possible before trying to take down the blood pillars, because you try to do the blood pillars, everything just comes into the Coliseum area and just tries to get you, so. Which can be pretty bad, because those things will damage you, and that could possibly mess with your one-hit protection a little bit. But yeah, sorry for that, just had to kind of explain it a little bit. Mithrix, so final boss of the game. The main goal is basically trying to make him commit to an attack. So he basically mostly goes for a sweet, like, three. Wait, that's a weird way to pronounce three, but he also okay. Let me explain it. So basically, Mithrix attacks and, like, he usually attacks using combos of his hammer. So he usually does a 3-hit combo, which usually ends in a, overhead slam, which is usually your main way to main way to counter him, because usually he has little flashy animations where he like puts his he maneuvers his hammer around after finishing his combo, as well as doing his overhead swing if you're out of the way, so you're able to counter him there. So the main idea is you want to make him commit to attacks where you're able to counter him without being attacked in return, because if you get hit by Mithrix, you will probably die, especially with the overhead slam. So your main idea is try and make him commit to attacks that you're able to counter while also keeping yourself alive. That's the main thing, in my opinion, because it's too risky simply blind firing to him all the time, because he will if you start attacking him, and if he gets close enough to you, he can he'll swing and if you were focused on attacking him, you maybe not be in a perfect position to dodge. So yeah, you want him to commit to attacks, and you want to make him commit to attacks, then counter. Because let's see, will you do the overhead swing? There you go. There's the overhead swing. Yeah, that is basically an instant kill. Like, not technically, but that overhead swing does a massive amount of damage. That can easily one-shot you. As you see here, the drones are actually messing up his AI a little bit. Because he he goes after you for, like, most of the time. Like, some of his AI makes him go after you a lot. Or players a lot, so... The drones won't stop him completely, but having a few of them around to help, like, absorb his shard attack, where he shoots out little shards, that's his main range attack. Making him use the shard attack on drones, for example, or just him trying to attack the drones in the first place, and like, there we go, see? He's trying to go after drones a little bit, which allows me to counter and, you know, be fine without risking too much. Because the thing is, like, you want to try and make sure you're able to get easy damage in him without risking yourself, because Mithrix can easily one-shot you. Especially as Huntress when you have that low HP overall. So, yeah. That probably was a little bit too much of a, like, convoluted rant, and I do apologize for that, but the main thing is, like, you want to prioritize your own safety and his damage second. Really. Like, you want to make sure you're staying alive and attacking him when it's most easy for you. Like, you don't want to try and push damage. Pushing damage is a very bad way to go about this, because if you try and push damage, he can easily counter you with an overhead swing, or, as you see in a quick moment, a fire wave attack. And, yeah, if you're distracted with attacking him, he can easily take you down. And especially with the lunar constructs he spawns in this third phase of the fight, they can easily chip you down, and then he'll follow up and hit you. So, you know, that can easily kill you. I have died multiple times because a lunar construct attacked me and then Mithrix followed up, or Mithrix hit me and then a lunar construct followed up and got me, so, yeah. But here's Fire Wave attack. Now, this is the best part about Huntress. Since you have the invincibility frames of the blink, you're able to avoid this. If you get hit with the Fire Wave attack, you're gonna probably die, because it hits really hard. So it's best to always just try and avoid it no matter what. Like, if you're able to attack him, great, but again, just be very careful, because that can easily one-shot you. Probably would do wonders. Yeah, I just maybe focus on trying to dodge that. Thankfully, this is a lot easier than with Huntress than anything else. But yeah, like, you really need high movement to make sure you're always able to stay out of the AoE of that, since if you get hit, again, like, that can easily cause you to get low enough health where a lunar construct or Mithrix can follow up and kill you, so yeah. You always want high movement just so you just are able to avoid a certain, you know, you're out of the danger zone of possibly getting one shot. Alright, now here goes the fourth phase of the fight. He steals everything. He decides that, you know what, I'm just gonna take all your shit, and he does. He just takes everything. So, basically what you want to do is just stay back, if you're able to. Of course, if you got some, like, drones, the Souls Probe boss item, you know, he'll spawn 2 probes for himself, and they'll try and go after you, possibly, so you may be pushed off this wedge in that situation, but your main goal is, like, you want to stay far back, and be careful, like, he will never leave that center zone, so if you just stay far back and use long-range attacks, and just peek him, he can't really do much, and you'll just slowly whittle him down. But yeah, like, if someone does push you off with drones, or the probes from the Souls Probe item, and he steals that, and he spawns little 2 probes for himself and they come after you, you just have to run around the area, or, you know, just kind of work with that, and just be evasive, and just slowly whittle him down. Like, this is more of an endurance test than a sprint. Which is, honestly, pretty much the entire Mithrix fight. Like, it's more about endurance and just slowly taking him down without putting yourself in too much risk. Like, you don't be in too much risk. You want to just slowly take him down bit by bit and just be safe, because there's a good chance that some could go wrong, so it's better to always be prepared for a possibility of getting hit instead of just being reckless and trying to push him down as fast as possible, because, yeah, just being reckless in this fight is a good way to die, so it's always great to just be very slow, very cautious, and just slowly take him down. And I'm pretty sure this next ballista will just shred him instantly. Yep, there you go. There we go. Excellent. But yeah, like, just be very careful here. Use long range attacks if you're able to, and if you need be, you can move back on the ramp a little bit, try and encourage him to come forward, because he tends to back away from you when you do this. But if you back away a little bit further down the ramp and just like closer towards the edge of the arena, he tends to go forward a little bit. But just just be patient. Like, you're not like, you're basically won to fight already. Like, there's no need to rush at this point. Like, you can take your time with that phase, because unless there's like a item he took that allows him to attack you from behind the ramp, or spawn something that will be able to attack you from while you're up there, he'll never be able to push you off that ramp. So just take your time and slowly whittle him down, because like, you just slowly poke at him enough, he'll slowly stop dropping items, and once he starts getting rid of items, not only will he become easier, but you'll do more damage, which will cause more items drop and all that stuff. So yeah, just be very patient. So during the escape, you're mostly going to deal with Reavers and small roly-poly constructs. Both of them are pretty easy overall. The Reavers can't hit you really, unless you are on the ground. So if you're in the air a lot, they can't really hurt you because they're spawning explosives on the ground, and don't really have much of an aerial attack. But I have seen a full actual walker constructs, the big walkers, winter constructs, and the flying constructs spawn or appear in this area, or during this appear during this whole sequence. I have especially seen them a elite flying construct, which could have easily killed me. So yeah, you gotta be very careful in case something like that happens. But it's not that common. But you just gotta still be careful. But this is more of about a wind down to run rather than anything else. But as long as you're careful and just don't get hit, and just you're on your toes at all times, you're mostly gonna be fine. Because if you're on the move, a lot of enemies just can't really hit you. But there you go, run's over with, and run is done. So yeah, like, this was actually a surprisingly enough a decent run, to be fair. Like, I was surprised I managed to win this. Like, funny thing is, like, the run before this, as I did in my own free time, I got a very good start, but I failed pretty early on. Even though I had like 2 good hopes, like stage 1 pretty much, or stage 2 of rough. I can't remember exactly, but I got 2 good hopes relatively early on and like decent items. But yeah, funny enough, the run that starts with bad items, or bad or like worse items overall, succeeds way better. So I guess that's a great motivational thing. So like, even if the run starts out a little bit bad, keep on trying. You could get pretty lucky. Like Polywood and a bunch of other items can really make the whole thing a lot easier. And yeah, there you go. 50 minutes, like, not bad. Like, the fastest I ever did a Eclipse run is 30 minutes. Not exactly. Technically, the fastest I ever got to Mythics is 30 minutes on the dot, essentially. So yeah, you can do way faster than me. You can also do way slower than me. But the main thing is, you have to keep a good balance of. The main goal is, is going after items beneficial, and more importantly, is it beneficial enough to eclipse, funnily enough, the downside of going around the stage if you don't have, the wasting time, essentially. Well, not wasting time, but you're spending time for items, and will the items be good enough to counteract the time waste, or the time used to get those items, essentially. So that's my main idea behind it. So of course, we didn't always get the best items in the world. Like, we got, what did we get? We got a watch, we got elixir, 2 elixirs, we got 2 sticky bombs. Like, not great items overall, and the 2 red items are definitely not optimal. Like, the resistance disc and the Aegis are pretty good, but we could have gotten way better items. We could have gotten a symbiotic scorpion, for example. That would have been amazing. Really great with Polywood and everything, just to help deal a lot of damage to Mythics. But despite all that, we did pretty well. So yeah, so that's the run. Hope you gained some level of information from all this. I appreciate y'all stopping by. Hope you all had a wonderful day today. I may turn this into a whole series, I think, for each character I beat with Eclipse 8. I'll do a video for them, possibly. And, yeah, I'm maybe just do a Railgunner next, because that's another character I beat on Eclipse 8. And, yeah, I may turn this into a video series if people like this. So, yeah. Hope you all had a great day today. I again apologize for my voice if it sounds a little bit tense. You know, allergies is always fun. But, yeah. Hope you all had a great day today. Appreciate you stopping by. I'm streaming on Twitch, so if you want me to see me beat Eclipse 8 for the first time on characters, as well as other stuff, I'm on Twitch, and there's things in the description below. And yeah, hope you're all having a great day today. Appreciate you stopping by, and hope you have a good rest of the night, and good, rest of the night or day, depending on your time zone and all that stuff. And yeah, appreciate you stopping by. Good night, everyone. Ciao.